Democratic Senate Assistant Majority Leader Dick Durbin of Illinois, a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, welcome.
Thanks, David.
You heard Jim's reporting there, and just the goals here: preventing genocide, stopping ISIS, protecting the Kurdish territory, protecting really the integrity of Iraq and American personnel on the ground. All of those goals, so important. Why are you already talking about limits to this operation?
Because only Iraq can save Iraq. The president has stepped in because of this threatened genocide. I support that. Bringing food and water to these people who are dying on that mountaintop, of course the United States should do that. And when it comes to the Kurds, yes, they have been the adults in this neighborhood, the grown-ups. And I think that we ought to help them preserve their capital against this ISIS invasion. And we also want to make certain that the Americans that are on the ground are protected. The bottom line is this: there is so much that we can do to help the Iraqis help themselves, but ultimately they have to save their own country.
But talk about ISIS itself. This is a terrorist state trying to construct a caliphate cast off by al-Qaeda because this group was considered too extreme. Is the problem that the Obama administration, wanting to be something other than President Bush, got out of the business of confronting terror on a big global scale and just dealt with it in a more limited way? Is it an underreaction to the terrorist threat?
Don't forget, they invited us to leave in Iraq. The president was negotiating after President George Bush had this timetable for withdrawal. President Obama was trying to negotiate the final date for withdrawal.
I'm talking about the terrorist threat. I'm talking about fighting terrorism. The Obama team said, we are not in the business of a global fight against terror. We're fighting al-Qaeda in limited forms. This is a big, expansive terrorist threat that has amassed on his watch.
Well, there's no question that this ISIS threat in Syria and in Iraq is growing and troublesome. The big question is, what can the United States do to stop it? If the Iraqis come together, oust Maliki, put in someone in power who wants to bring in Sunnis and Shias to govern with the Kurds, then perhaps they can do it themselves. But we cannot send the troops. We must not send the troops.
But isn't it galling to you? Isn't it galling to you as a United States Senator that we, the American military, are targeting assets that ISIS has in its control that are American assets, American military hardware that they stole, left behind because we got out of Iraq?
How many times has this happened in history where the United States, with the best military in the world, goes in and fights a war, leaves behind equipment and ordnance, and then finds it being used, perhaps even against it, in the next conflict? This is not new. It reflects the reality of war today, and it reflects the limitations when it comes to our fight against terrorism. We need to make certain, not that as many argue, that we should be in every theater in every war. That is not the United States' role. We need to be certain that what we do has surgical precision to it and a clear goal of success.
If this doesn't work, the goals that have been spelled out, which is preventing genocide, stopping ISIS, protecting the Kurds and American personnel, if an air campaign of some duration does not work, what do you believe, Senator Durbin, is America's responsibility to counter these threats?
First, to protect the Americans on the ground. Number one, to protect American interest in the region. And that means, of course, our friends who are nearby neighbors of this disintegrating, chaotic situation.
Right, but what do you do if it doesn't work with a limited air campaign?
Well, I can tell you this: escalating it is not in the cards. Neither the American people nor Congress are in the business of wanting to escalate this conflict beyond where it is today. I think the president's made it clear this is a limited strike. He has, I believe, most congressional support for that at this moment. To go beyond is really going to be a challenge.
All right, I'm going to leave it there. Senator Durbin, thank you as always for your views, for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Joined now by Republican